I'll be demonstrating the Crown Picot bind off. It's a charming little bind off that adds a decorative edge to your knitting. It is reversible. It's a loose bind off that makes it perfect for shawls or the trim of baby items. One thing that's fun about this bind off is you can see each of these little crowns has picots in it, so and you can adjust them to suit you. This sample has 3 picots per crown with 4 stitches in between, and you can adjust it however you want. More picots, more spaces or less spaces in between. It's seen here in flat knitting, so I started with 4 bind off stitches and then I began the decorative part. If you're working this in the round, you will just start right away with the picot here and then work your way around your knitting. So I'm going to demonstrate it in the knitting in the round method just to save some time here. So let's get started. So to begin the Crown Picot bind off, we start by casting on 2 stitches, and we're going to be using the knitted cast on method. So we go into this first stitch, wrap our yarn around, draw through a loop, and then to place this stitch on our left hand needle, we bring our left needle in front of that stitch and pop it on the left needle. And we'll do that one more time. Go into the stitch, knit it, draw the loop through, keep the original stitch on the left hand needle in front and underneath that stitch and pop that on your left hand needle. So that's step 1, cast on 2 stitches. Then we will knit 2. 1 and 2, and then using the left needle tip, we're going to lift this first stitch over the second stitch and off the needle. And then we will knit 1 to give us 2 stitches on this right hand needle again, and we're going to lift that first stitch over the second stitch and off the needle and return it to the left hand needle. So 1 little picot has been made, and we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So we cast on 2 stitches with the knitted cast on method. Well, there's 1. That stitch again, and now there's 2, so there's my 2 cast on. I will knit 2, lift that first stitch over the second stitch, knit 1 to bring 2 back on this right hand needle, lift the first stitch over the second stitch, and return that to the left hand needle. So now I have 2 picots made. One last time. So we're going to cast on 2 stitches with the knitted cast on method. There's 1. There's 2. And then I knit 2. Pass the first stitch over the second stitch, knit 1 to bring 2 stitches to that right hand needle, lift the first stitch over the second stitch and return that to the left hand needle. So here you can see that I have my 3 picots that are made, and now I'm going to bind off 4 stitches. It feels kind of weird because when I go to knit this stitch, I feel like there's this big space here, but it closes up. So because I have to knit 2 to bind off 1, so that's 1 bound off, knit again, 2 stitches bound off, 3 stitches bound off, and now 4 stitches bound off. Let's take a peek at what we did here. So I have 1 Crown Picot with 4 spaces in between, and again that can all be adjusted to suit your taste. So I'm going to return this stitch to the left hand needle and start all over again. So I'll do that one more time. We're going to cast on 2 using the knitted cast on method. 1, 2, and then I knit 2. 1, 2, pass that first stitch over the second, knit 1, Pass that over the second stitch and return to the left hand needle. 1 picot made. Cast on 2 stitches. 1, 2, and I knit 2. Pass the first over the second. Knit 1. Pass the first over the second and return that stitch to the left hand needle. So 2 picots have been made. 1 more picot to go. Cast on 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And now I'm going to knit 2. Pass the first over the second. Knit 1. Pass the first over the second. And my 3 picots are made. Return that stitch to the left hand needle. And now I'm going to bind off 4. So to bind them off, we've got to knit. Always have to get 2 to your right hand needle. Pass the first over the second, so that's binding off 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here we can see, straighten this out for you here. We've got 2 pretty little crown picots. Happy knitting!